Recording. All right, guys. I just want to welcome you all to the Science Summit. I'm so happy that all of you are here. We're just starting now. Those who are just joining us, welcome. I am Lumbi Malambo, the Water Lady, so called or so known. I'm the founder and CEO of JB Dondolo Organization, and I am your Science Summit session convener today. I kindly ask you all to mute yourselves and turn off your video cameras. We will let you know when you can turn it back on. So today, our session topic is, can science save us? Navigating the SDGs within planetary boundaries. This session is broken into two parts, panel 1 and panel 2. Our objective for these discussions are to examine the Science Summit role in SDGs, right? To explore how research and innovation can advance the SDGs while protecting the planet. To address the challenges like climate change, health, food security, and digital equity, to discuss how science offers sustainable solutions. To promote policy and collaboration, to show why science must guide policy and cross-sectors, partnerships for real impact. So to discuss ethics and equity, to ensure that science benefits all communities without deepening inequality, to inspire action, to share insights, cases, and strategies that spark innovation and collective action for a sustainable future. With all this, we expect science for sustainability, so we can learn how science can advance SDGs while staying within planetary limits. And 2, innovation solutions, so we can discover new breakthroughs like tackling climate, health, food, and digital equity. And 3, collaboration. We can see how academia, policymakers, and industry and civil society can work together. And 4, policy and research. So we can have takeaways on using science to guide evidence-based decisions. And 5, inspiration. So we can explore success stories that spark research, advocacy, innovation for people and all the people on the planet. All right. And at this time, I would like to introduce to you our panel 1 moderator, Precious Isola. Precious is the founder of ilimo.com, a platform that is recognized for delivering exceptional value and quality education to students in need. So I want to welcome you, Precious. Welcome, and please take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Lumbi, for the warm introduction. Hello, everyone. Hello, panelists, attendees. Thank you so much for having me. Such a delight to be here. We'll get straight into it because of our time. Would be taking the first session and moderating. And we are going to be kickstarting this session with an entrepreneur inspiration video from Chitra Kanan. And we'll be right back to our panelists. So the video would come up shortly. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to share right now Chitra Kanan's video. So bear with me, please, for just a second as I share this video. And I hope you guys can hear it very well.
I'm Dr. Chitra Kanan, and I'm excited to be part of the Science Summit. And thank you for asking me this question. Can science save us? I'm a passionate science student. As a kid, just like every kid, I have also asked a lot of how and why to my parents, to my siblings, to my aunt, uncle, everyone. Why is the flights flying so high in the sky? How is the fruits falling down from tree? Why is the time different here versus in other countries? How do they know that it is going to rain tomorrow? And to answer all this question, answer is simple. It's science. It's not magic. It's not miracle. Science has a profound impact in everybody's life. let it be an individual or as a world. Without science, I think it is very hard to even exist in today's world. Look at all the innovations happened and in the world we are. Even through the pandemic, the vaccine and all that, the formulations, they could able to do it only with the science. Let's take a deep dive from the environmental crisis to the health issues and how science has played a huge role. In the environmental crisis, it's going to rain, there is going to be a storm, how about tsunami, how about earthquake? We could able to see all this with the power of science. How is the planet doing? How is it going to alignment? What is going to, it's all happening. And with that, we could able to save the planet world. And that's where a lot of initiatives is also coming up. Like take sustainability, waste management and all of it. On the other end, if we try to take a deep look at our health industry, prior, whatever the humans were fearing to do, the surgeries, now robotics have started taking place. And after all this robotics and science, the success rate has gone up very high. And that could able to save many millions of people in this world. On a personal note, I wanted to share how science has played a huge role in my beauty industry, skin-centric. In skin-centric, all the formulations and all the research and development, which is R&D, is all purely science-based. Those formulations could able to give, we could able to make it a good efficacy-related product, which every single one is waiting for, to be beauty in our own skin, to glow in and out. Let's join hands and take a step forward and let's explore the possibilities that science has to have in our personal life and for this world nature. Let's save the world and for the good for the future generations. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. That was such an inspiring video. Indeed, science actually holds the answer to a lot of our questions. And as we continue this session, I'm sure we'll get a lot of answers to the questions that we are asking of science. I'm going to be introducing the speakers for this very first session in no particular order. We have on the list Shelley Brunswick, Kanti Suraj Shetty, Loni Mariapin, Judith Marrera, Guest Sonono, Dr. Muhammad Sharif, and Rogers Ving. So we'll get right into the questions. I'm also going to remind us, our panelists, please, let's keep our responses to 2 to 3 minutes so we could have more time for Q&A and also more time to get more inspirational videos. All right, so we're going to be starting with the theme, science and climate resilience. And I'm going to be directing my first question to guest Sonono. So the question is, how can science accelerate climate resilience in vulnerable communities, particularly those most affected by extreme weather and resource scarcity? Thank you, guest. Let's go ahead.
Thank you for the question, Precious. I believe science offers tools to adapt and recover from climate shocks. One of the most immediate contributions of science to climate resilience lies in early warning systems. Satellite imagery and local weather stations can already provide accurate forecasts of floods or storms and even drought. These insights actually give communities time to prepare and evacuate or to adjust their farming practices. Similarly, science supports the development of climate-resilient crops, such as drought-tolerant varieties, which can actually stabilize food supplies in regions where agriculture is already risky. These scientific innovations provide vital tools, but they become most powerful when rooted in a permaculture framework that builds long-term resilience by working with natural systems. Permaculture actually emphasizes designing human systems that mimic the patterns and relationships found in nature. Now, from this perspective, building resilience begins with water security. Scientific hydrology, combined with traditional practices, supports the use of swales and rainwater harvesting techniques to actually slow spread and then sink water into the landscape. Similarly, diverse polycultures and perennial crops reduce the risk by spreading it across multiple species. Food security is another cornerstone of resilience. Permaculture prioritizes diverse food forest systems, which naturally reduce risk because of its integration. Since science depends this approach by actually identifying species and varieties best suited for changing climate conditions and monitoring soil health to actually protect biodiversity. And then beyond food and water, ecosystem restoration is a vital permaculture strategy for climate resilience. Healthy ecosystems such as wetlands and forests actually serve as natural infrastructure that actually buffer communities against extreme weather events. Science then helps measure the impact of these restorations, providing statistics on biodiversity and hydrological cycles. So, in short, scientific disciplines such as permaculture can accelerate ensuring that it is rooted in regeneration and community care, helping vulnerable communities not just to survive, but to thrive.
Thank you so much for that response. Being an expert of permaculture yourself, it is really interesting to see how permaculture just connects a lot of elements of our environment, from water to the soil to the environment, and ensuring reducing loss of biodiversity. Thank you so much for that response. I'll now move on to Dr. Muhammad, and I will be asking, how can science help us better anticipate and prevent future pandemics rather than only reacting to them? Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. Dr. Mohammed, you're on mute, so we're unable to hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You meant me, Dr. Muhammad Sharif, yes? Okay. Thank you very much. Would you please mind to repeat the question?
Sure, thank you. So how can science help us better anticipate and prevent future pandemics rather than we reacting to them? How can we anticipate and prevent and avoid reactive measures? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Precious, for giving the opportunity to me to be part of this the forum today. I am Dr. Muhammad Sharif, Advisor Science and Environment at ISESCO. ISESCO is the Islamic World Educational and Scientific and Cultural Organization based in Rabat, Morocco. Yeah, the question is very the pertinent question you have asked. So how the science can save the pandemics, the future pandemics? The question is really, if we get back to the pandemic era, and then we see that how it helped, the same way it will help also in the future. So there are the different technologies and different ways of the research and in the different institutions the people are doing to predict and anticipate what can happen in the coming the future. Having the knowledge and the experience from the previous pandemic era. You see that when the pandemic came in 2020, then how fast and quickly the people came up to the PCR tests, etc., and then the medicines from the different the companies. So this is how the science can anticipate and can predict the coming the pandemics and also other related the diseases. That's how I would say that the science cannot only the save, but it is the people and then who really put the efforts and to predict and anticipate the coming the pandemics or anticipated the diseases. So science is at the crossroads of the prediction, and this is the way the science can really help us to predict the coming the problems.
All right, thank you so much for that. I appreciate. So our previous speaker and Dr. Mohammed did mention that, did talk about how technologies and specific technologies and scientific approach could help us prevent a lot of things and actually help people in vulnerable communities. So I'll now be moving on to Nolin, who is going to tell us how innovative approaches such as AI, biotechnology, or climate modeling are showing promises in helping us adapt within planetary boundaries. So we're going to be digging deeper into how innovative approaches and technologies are, again, helping us to achieve and adapt within planetary boundaries. So, Nolin?
That's going to be a recording for Nolin. So I'm going to start that. Okay.
Thank you for having me here today. So when we talk about adapting within planetary boundaries and using emerging technologies, it's never about a single invention or solution. It's about how innovations can come together with local knowledge to create solutions, and how those solutions can be applied meaningfully and scaled responsibly, using tools for collaboration, learning, and action, and incredibly crucially, this being done in a way that's fair, that's equitable, and that delivers more positive impact than harm to people and the planet. Now, AI already plays a significant role. And on one of our projects, the EU Horizon Upstream Initiative, one of the partners, Drones, uses AI-enabled drones to map plastic pollution. This produces critical data that helps model ecosystems, tracks impacts, provides insights that communities, policymakers may not otherwise have. And it's about making science usable and actionable. And that's one of the important contributions that AI and technology can make. Advancements in robotics opens up new opportunities in this area. So we'll work with Sophia the robot, for example, and Hanson Robotics uses social AI to translate complex information into experiences that are engaging, accessible, relatable, and to allow people to learn and to take action. Now, language has always been a barrier to global collaboration, which is essential if we want to address planetary challenges. And through partnerships with machine learning for people, we look at AI translation tools that allow communities, children, scientists, innovators around the world to collaborate across borders, share ideas, co-create solutions, removing language as a barrier. Beyond this, even nature-based technologies advancing rapidly. Another one of Think Ocean Partners, Daphne Water Solutions, looks at nature-based solutions to address water pollution. Regenerative farming is another area, microbial processes that break down plastics, potential applications of emerging technology, and the use of AI is immense. But the question is not just about what the technologies are and what they are capable of. It's how we apply them. How do they fit within planetary boundaries? AI and energy consumption is a massive concern, for example. So we need outside of this as well to look at how the technologies remain practical but globally inclusive. How do they act as true enablers? How do they give people fairness, agency, and the ability to shape solutions that work for them? And as a society, this is something that we need to demand.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nolin. Got a lot from that response. It was really insightful. One key takeaway from Nolin's response is that rather than look into one technology in isolation, we need to think about collaborative efforts and collaborating technologies together. That is, there's a need to bring in technologies together to help us achieve and build solutions. And then speaking of collaboration and bringing of technologies together, we're going to be talking and around cross-sector collaboration. So my first question will be directed to Judith, and I'm going to ask, how can we ensure that scientific advancements are not only innovative, but also inclusive, ethical, and sustainable? Thank you, Judith.
Thank you so much, Precious, and I'm quite happy to be here. And just like the previous speaker has highlighted, to ensure that scientific advancements are inclusive, ethical, and sustainable. I think there is that need for that collaborative and interdisciplinary approach, whereby we include everyone and leave no one behind, just fostering a culture of collaboration that breaks down traditional biases or traditional silos that we often have when it comes to science, and include all disciplines, and make sure that people from all different backgrounds and geographic locations come together and put their ideas together. This will help to incorporate different perspectives and value systems which can identify potential ethical pitfalls and promote more inclusive outcomes. And the other thing that I think can help is to work on equitable access and benefit sharing. With this one, I'm trying to say that innovation is not truly successful if its benefits are confined to only a few individuals and leave others behind. We need to create those mechanisms that will help ensure that the fruits of scientific innovations are shared widely and fairly. This means addressing issues like intellectual property. If we look at areas in the global south, we can actually tell that the issue of intellectual property is something that most people are not aware of. They may come up with different ideas, even innovative ideas, but those ideas do not get to reach anywhere, or you find someone else now bringing those ideas into life. And that person would have created that innovation would have been ignored or forgotten about. So we need to come up with such policies that support open source research and global issues where they are discussed, and everyone else does have to contribute, even those that are in areas that are very difficult to reach. The other thing that I think can also work is the robust ethical and regulatory oversight. I think we need a strong, independent, and ethical review boards and regulatory frameworks to help guide in research and development. When people are working on innovations, we need them to be supported from different angles and to be empowered to access potential societal potential things that they might need in terms of bringing those innovations into life. For example, if you're looking into the area of biology, there are different things that are involved. So with people coming from different angles, people coming from different areas, that public engagement will actually help. And there's also need for transparency for those, so that we avoid biases and risks that are also associated with these things. So to ensure that the public's values and concerns are integrated with the decision-making process, there is need for that robust ethical and regulatory oversight. Thank you.
Much. Thank you so much. That was really insightful. Key takeaways from me: creating the right policies and also creating a structure that oversees and ensure that advancements and solutions are ethical. Thank you once again, Judith. I would now be moving on to Shelley. Shelley, in a video, will be answering and telling us about what models of collaboration between government, private sector, the academia, and communities have shown the greatest success in aligning science with policy and social good.
Just 1 second. It's not the one. Okay, here we go. Can you guys see this? I don't know why this one is so hard to find.
Yes,
but,
please.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, Lumbi, we're unable to get the audio. If you can read, share, or I might as well just move on to the next panelist.
No, let me reshare, actually.
Thank you.
Let me reshare. Okay. All right, I think I got it this time.
Hello, I'm Shelley Brunswick, author of the What Space Got to Do with It series. Cross-sector collaboration is crucial for aligning science with policy and promoting social good. In the space and technology sectors, I've seen how innovation flourishes when governments, industry, academia, and communities act as partners rather than separate stakeholders. Satellites, for example, they don't just generate scientific data, they provide actionable insights that inform policymakers on food security. They empower businesses through precision agriculture, and they help communities prepare for climate-driven disasters. Successful collaboration is not just about sharing resources. It's about creating intentional frameworks where each sector brings its strengths. Governments can set long-term vision and regulatory clarity. Industry contributes agility and the ability to scale solutions. Academia pushes the boundary of research, while communities ensure solutions are trusted, inclusive, and implementable. No single sector can anticipate every challenge alone. By pooling perspectives, we can address not only technical barriers, but also ethical, cultural, and sustainability questions that shape how science benefits society. Global networks and consortia are another powerful model. When diverse voices, from climate scientists to entrepreneurs, are brought together with policymakers, solutions emerge that are both innovative and equitable. This is how we turn knowledge into progress and ensure innovation works for the greater good. At its core, collaboration isn't about who leads, it's about leading together. When science and technology are coupled with policy, business, and community insights, we create pathways that serve humanity. Thank you again. I'm Shelley Brunswick, and until next time, I look forward to seeing you around the galaxy.
Thank you so much. Shelley is a space exploration and science expert. It's good to have her on board. Now we're going to be moving to global health. And starting with Rogers, I'm going to ask what scientific breakthroughs are currently reshaping global health and how can they be made accessible to low and middle income countries? Thank you, Rogers.
Well, thank you for that question and thank you for this opportunity to speak to everyone today. So I just want to open up my answer with this overall thought. What if a child born in a small village had just as much opportunity of survival as a child born in one of the wealthiest cities in the world? That's the promise that scientific breakthroughs can provide for us today. But that only happens if we are intentional in how we share that knowledge here globally. So some of the breakthroughs that are coming through today is, of course, the mRNA vaccines. They were developed under 1 year, and they saved millions of lives during COVID. We have AI involved in medicine that is literally detecting diseases like cancer at a 95% accuracy, which is amazing. We have gene therapy, which has allowed us to find cures for some of the rarest diseases that we didn't even think that was even possible. And also we have wearable tech that allows us to track our heart health. It allows us to track our blood sugar, and also it tracks how well we're able to sleep and be able to restore our bodies naturally. So these are some of the major breakthroughs that's currently available right now. And some of the challenges that we're having for some of the middle and lower income countries is that 80% of them still lack access to these breakthroughs. Why? We have cost issues, we have distribution issues, and we have some weak health systems that are unfortunately the current situation in some of those areas. For example, in Africa, I believe that only 25% of the people was able to actually get the vaccines during COVID, while in other wealthier countries, we had over 75% that had access to that health solution. So with that being the situation, what are our opportunities? How could we go about addressing some of these things? One is increased collaboration and partnerships with governments, nonprofits, and some private companies that have equity in the health systems of these other lower income countries, because that does exist. You know, the value is in the people, not just in the science itself. We can invest more into the local manufacturers and the labs we have in those areas so they can produce more and support themselves, as opposed to having to always have to wait on the incoming vaccines or some of these tech that can help them from a health standpoint. Also, we can create more equitable versions of some of that wearable tech that could be used other places. It doesn't cost as much to produce, but we can provide other versions that more people can use across the globe that have lower income, that coming from a lower income scenario. So the real breakthrough of the science overall, in this case, is not in just creating the science breakthrough, but is when more people get to enjoy the benefit of that breakthrough. So we have to redefine what success. Success isn't coming up with the actual, coming up with the actual solution, but in how we share it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rogers. That was really key. And from what you said, what we've seen is that technology and scientific breakthroughs can actually democratize access to quality healthcare in underserved communities. But then we need to then rethink how we go about distribution and think collaboration and also develop solution in the local context. Thank you so much for that once again. I really appreciate that. I'm going to redirect that question to Kanti, and I'm going to repeat by asking again, what scientific breakthroughs are currently reshaping global health, and how can they be made accessible to low and middle income countries? Thank you, Kanti.
First of all, thank you, Precious, and thank you for that question. But when I think about global health today, I see it through the same lens I use at our business, which is Indus Energy Partners, where we build bridges across borders. And science is advancing at a lightning speed, and I'm sure everyone will agree with me on that. But the question that arises is, how do we make sure those breakups don't stop at the borders of many wealthier nations? Yeah, for example, take malaria. With a WHO approval, there are two vaccines which what I've done a little bit research about, which is RTS and R21, which is available at this point of time. For a mother in Africa, that actually means that her child finally has a real shot at being safe, right? So that's, again, that's not science, that's dignity. So then there's this sickle cell disease where, not many of us would have heard about it. It's a CRISPR-based gene therapy, and it has been FDA approved. And yes, it's a CRISPR-based gene therapy. And then for families, who've lived with a lot of generational sufferings, this isn't just a treatment, the CRISPR-based gene therapy. It's what they say is, it's more of liberation. And then tuberculosis, it's still killing millions of people. But now, we have a vaccine in phase 3 trials, that could be the first major advance in a century. But again, here's where my perspective as someone working between the US and India comes in. The science that exists, but unless we solve access, equity, and affordability, it won't change lives. Gavi has proven that pooled procurement can bring vaccine costs down to just cents per dose. And the tech transfer hubs, like the mRNA hub in South Africa, are giving countries independence to produce their own vaccines. And licensing through global patent pools make life-saving medicines available in about 100 countries or so. Yeah. So again, at Indus Energy, which is our company, we've seen firsthand how legal clarity, financing structures, and other international partnership can accelerate access, um, whether it's through regulatory pathways or contract design or connecting investors. But for me, it's about applying the same cross-border mindset. Again, science knows no borders, and access, to science shouldn't be either. So again, the breakthroughs are here. What we need is the will, and what we need is the systems to make sure a child in India, in South Africa, in Ghana, in Zimbabwe, or a refugee in Jordan, and a mother in Nigeria all benefit equally. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was such an interesting perspective, and also talking about the role of finance in all of this. Thank you so much. We're going to be taking a dive, looking into the big picture of all of this. So I'm going to be directing my next question to Dr. Muhammad. So given the urgency of the 2030 agenda, what role should science play in helping prioritize SDG goals within planetary boundaries? Thank you, Dr. Muhammad.
Yeah, thank you very much, the Precious, again, for putting up this question. Yeah, actually, the science plays a critical role in guiding the world to prioritize the sustainable development goals within the planetary boundaries. Yeah. The 2030 agenda is truly ambitious and indivisible. But achieving it sustainably requires a clear understanding of the Earth's limits, the climate, biodiversity, the fresh water, and the soils. Science provides actually the data, evidence, and foresight needed to identify where urgent interventions are required and how trade-offs between goals can be managed. At our organization, we are actively supporting our member countries, which are 53 in number, to use the science for this purpose. For example, through initiatives, for example, in the space-based environmental monitoring, sustainable agriculture and renewable the initiatives. And then we help member countries to make the evidence-based decisions that balance the development with the ecological limits. Our programs also emphasize capacity building and knowledge sharing, ensuring that the member countries, and in the member countries, no country can left behind in the global south. In short, the science acts as a compass for policy and an action, helping the governments and the communities to prioritize the sustainable development goals, make informed trade-offs, and innovate responsibility, all while respecting planetary boundaries. Without science, we think and then we believe that the guiding decisions, the 2030 agenda, risks becoming aspirational rather than achievable. So, I mean, there was the Future Summit last year. So also it gave really too much attention to on this question. I mean, we are 6 years now. I think 5 years left to the 2030 agenda completion, and then we see that how much we have really achieved in the toward the sustainable development goals. So we believe that if we put the more efforts in the developing countries and the least developed countries, the more on the science, so at least we can move quicker than the usual the time will take. So that's how the science is really in the more important in these areas which I just mentioned to achieve the sustainable development goals within the planetary the boundaries. We need to really see that what are the areas which are left behind and then which have not been given any attention. For example, if you see the space sciences, yeah, now the AI, we talk about the AI, we talk about the space science applications a lot, but I mean the countries you come from and I come from, you see that how much the awareness is even there about it. There is nothing. I mean, or it is really at very low level. So even the universities or even the new generation, they don't know that what is coming up in the next the decade. So if we want to have in the planetary boundaries the sustainable development goals achievement, so we need to put more efforts on this the cutting edge technologies like the space science, AI, and other related than digitization. That's my take on it.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Thank you for helping us understand the urgency at hand and helping us to know that we need to start taking stock. I'm going to direct the next question to Judith. So the question is, how do we balance the rapid pace of innovation with the need for ethical safeguards and long-term sustainability? Thank you, Judith.
Thank you, Precious. I think regarding this question, the challenge that we're facing now is quite a defining challenge of our time. And but we can achieve this balance probably by trying to have a proactive governance. We need institutions, big institutions like the United Nations bodies, to work with governments and the private sector in order to establish clear principles and standards that can help people in terms of technology, from AI to what to any scientific fields in the world, so that if we do have those governance frameworks, we can anticipate and respond to emerging issues that come by. Imagine during the era of COVID, when all of a sudden the world was brought to a standstill because we did not anticipate for such bigger challenges to come. So if these United Nations organizations create such frameworks so that we can respond quickly to tragedies or epidemics pandemics that can happen, that will also help. And these frameworks should also include the issues of human rights, social equity, and environmental protection from the outset. And with most companies polluting because of the activities that they are doing, I think there should be firmer penalties that directed to companies that are emitting emissions into the atmosphere, and that would help them to actually look at what is supposed to be done. And we also need a culture of responsible innovations. When we do come up with various innovations that we do come with, there should be that element of sustainability and ethics. We shouldn't just come up with innovation just for the sake of coming up with innovations, but there should be regulatory measures in place to help even protect the vulnerable communities, those that are not able to fight for themselves. And we also need to encourage scientists and innovators to think critically about potential societal and environmental impacts of their work when they're coming up with innovations. They need to know that, are these innovations going to help the communities around us? Is there no damage that is going to come to the communities that we are trying to work with? And also to keep motivating the researchers, the scientists. I think we need to fund and reward research to a certain extent, so that people continue coming up with researches and not only produce half-baked things, but if they are funded and if they are supported, we know that things will go the right way, and we can also address the issues of equity and sustainability. This shift of focus from what can we do should be to, should we do it, and for whom? Who are we doing it for? And lastly, the issue of inclusive collaboration. I think I've spoken about collaboration earlier in my response, just to say no single country, no single organization, no single continent can work on science alone, but the need to collaborate, people from the global south, people from the other part of the world, they should meet together, discuss these issues, and come up with to a conclusion or the decisions that will actually assist the people in those areas, and not apply a one-size-fits-all kind of solution. Because we come from different continents, we come from different backgrounds, the challenges that we face are different. So when you're coming up with solutions, when you're coming up with innovations, those innovations should suit the environment where they are being implemented. And those people from the global south, global north, yeah, we can just prevent a two-tiered system of technological advancement and build equitable and sustainable future for everyone. That's my take. Thank you.
Thank you for that, for helping us understand the role of regulation in all of this. Thank you. so much. All right. So I'm going to be directing the next question to Shelley. And Shelley in a video would be answering the question of, given the urgency of the 2030 agenda, what role should science play in helping the world prioritize SDG goals within planetary boundaries?
Hello, I'm Shelley Brunswick, a global speaker, futurist, and space industry leader. When we think about the urgency of the 2030 agenda, science is not just a knowledge base, it's our compass for navigating within planetary boundaries. But the power of science grows exponentially when we combine space and technology. Satellites are a prime example. They provide real-time monitoring of deforestation, crop health, and disaster impacts. They turn raw data into insights that help us prioritize which sustainable development goals to address first. From early warning systems in Africa that predict floods and droughts to space-based tools that improve water management in agriculture, science and space technologies give us clarity on where to act and how to act. Science also helps us evaluate trade-offs across the SDGs. Progress in one area, like energy or food production, can't come at the expense of health or clean water. Data modeling and AI, powered by space-enabled observation, allow policymakers to anticipate ripple effects and make balanced choices. But this isn't only about technology, it's about how humanity leads with it. The SDGs will only succeed if governments set a bold vision, industry scales innovative solutions, academia advances knowledge, and communities ensure equity and trust. Science and technology, they provide the tools, but leadership and collaboration ensure those tools are applied wisely. Ultimately, science within the 2030 Agenda must serve as a bridge between urgency and sustainability. It shows us the boundaries we must respect, sparks the innovation we must scale, and reminds us that progress must serve both people and planet. Without science, we're navigating blindly. With science and with the tools of space and technology, we chart a course that is ambitious, actionable, and sustainable for generations to come. Thank you. I'm Shelley Brunswick, and until next time, I look forward to seeing you around the galaxy.
Thank you so much once again, Shelley. We're now approaching the end of the very first session, and we're going to be talking about and discussing around digital transformation and equity. My first question would go to Kanti. So Kanti, how can emerging technologies like AI and blockchain be harnessed responsibly to drive SDG progress without deepening inequalities? Thank you. We can hear you, Kanti. Can you unmute, please?
All
Yep.
right. Okay. Thank you once again, Precious. Now, this question, this is very close to my heart because digital transformation is exactly where, technology, law, and equity, intersect. And, we, as in our company, we constantly, we ask ourselves, how do we make cross-border solutions both innovative and, fair? And let's look at AI, for example. It's already diagnosing tuberculosis, where radiologists are scarce, and they're forecasting crop yields for small farmers and also creating adaptive learning for schools in rural areas. That is powerful, isn't it? Yeah. But if, AI is trained only on the Western data, it leaves entire populations invisible. And I'm sure, the panelists will agree with me as well. That's why UNESCO's ethics on frameworks and, WHO's guidelines are so important. And it's so important that they ensure that AI works for all of us and not just a privileged few. One second. So again, blockchain, that's another tool that we have in this era. The World Food Program, they have also used blockchain to send it over, I think it's about $300 million directly to refugees, and there's no middlemen, there's no leaks in between. So it's, that is being used for transparent supply chains. So farmers in South Africa or India, they're getting a fair deal now. But here's the key again, design is what matters. So if you choose a high energy blockchain, you might heard the SDG 13 on climate, and Ethereum has proved the opposite. Shifting to proof of stake cut its energy by about 99%. And this is a little bit of research that I did, just before I had to, speak on this. So what's the playbook? First, let's start with the problem, not the technology. And let's ask, does this actually solve inequality? Second is governance. Governance must be embedded. Risk frameworks, transparency, accountability, and lastly, invest in local capacity. That is the key. Train local engineers, empower regulators, and let communities co-design solutions. And finally, we need to always measure who benefits and who's left out. So that's also what I do in my own work, our businesses, with the India and US bridging. We look at how technology, how law, and how finance can unlock opportunities while protecting equity. Because digital transformation can either deepen divides, or it's designed, if designed responsibly, then it can take it to another level, or it can take the level of playing field and accelerate SDGs across continents altogether. So for me, the answer is quite clear, Precious. Equity has to be built in from day one. If we get that right, AI and blockchain won't just be technologies. They'll be beyond that. They'll be instruments of dignity, and they'll be instruments of inclusion. Thank you. I think my time is up.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really insightful because we've been talking about democratizing access to education, to AI, to technologies, to a whole lot of things. But we also need to ensure that we are not doing so in detriment to other form of SDG. So we don't advance one SDG in detriment to another. Thank you. That was really insightful. I'm going to be repeating this question again to Nolan, who in a video will be answering the question, how can emerging technologies like AI and blockchain be harnessed responsibly to drive SDG progress without deepening inequalities? Thank you.
Now, this is another interesting area. We've talked about AI, but blockchain too can really accelerate progress toward the Sustainable Development Goals. Again, only if we are intentional about how it is built and how it is deployed. Use without due consideration, it risks widening inequalities, but responsible use can really empower communities and can help them to shape solutions for themselves. We'll talk quickly about AI again. For example, at Impactoverse, we're exploring AI experts for personalized learning, specifically around social and environmental impact. Imagine someone anywhere in the world accessing a digital expert and engaging with it to increase knowledge and co-create solutions to challenges that they're facing individually, in their community, in the environment. These experts can adapt to language, learning style, and support around topics like sustainability, entrepreneurship, health, so much more, but really building a pipeline that scales agency for social and environmental impact. So responsibility is critical. We have to look at things like addressing bias in training data, moving towards smaller, more localized models reflecting diverse realities, and we cannot impose a one-size-fits-all system. AI should be able to mirror the world's diversity, not just dominant voices. And blockchain's possibilities are vast. It opens up financial systems to the unbanked, allows, for example, for farmers to tokenize land, future harvests, access to microloans. And this is not just a financial innovation, it's a pathway to resilience, to food security, also allowing transparency in impact. Now, none of this happens automatically. We have to embed ethics and inclusivity from the start. We have to ask who benefits, who is excluded, how is power shared, and we have to ensure access to make solutions truly inclusive, transparent, and sustainable.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was great. So one thing I pick up from that is Nolan actually reinforced what Kanti shared earlier on. So we need to embed equity right from the start of building the solution. So equity shouldn't be another conversation. It shouldn't be a later conversation. It should be a now conversation. Thank you so much. I'm going to be directing the next question to Rogers. And I'm Haxon. Can digital transformation close equity gaps, or are we at risk of widening the digital divide if access remains unequal? Again, I'll take that again. Can digital transformation close equity gaps, or are we at risk of widening the digital divide if access remains unequal? Thank you, Rogers.
Thank you so much again for asking me this question. This is something that actually is near and dear to my heart, this particular topic here. So unfortunately, I would have to say that the digital divide is not only currently wide, but it's literally widening at an exponential rate. Innovations have occurred faster and faster as the years progress for all these additional technologies available to us. So that division that's occurred, that's already there, is widening as we speak. And I'm gonna explain the reason and one of the implications of what's actually coming from that. So if you have two students in different parts of the world, one student has access to a high-speed tablet that has access to the internet and online tutoring, and you have another student on another part of the world that has access to just a worn-out notebook where they can kind of take notes of stuff that they hear. Which one of those students has a higher propensity for success, not just for themselves, but also for the individual communities and for the world at large? That's the kind of scenario that we're facing, and that's causing that expansion, the exponential rate of expansion in this divide. So online learning platforms can reach over 1.6 billion with a B students worldwide. However, we have students of 30% of the world don't have internet access. So if you can do the math there, you have potentially billions of hundreds of millions and billions of kids that don't have access to the tools that will allow them to be able to enhance their lives. I'll give you a personal example for myself. In the city that I grew up in here, even in the US, it was a lower income city. So it didn't have access to some technologies as they were coming out back in the 80s. However, my computer got access to, my school got access to one computer. Now, from that one computer access I got back when I was in almost elementary, I've been able to craft a 25 plus year technology career in which I have saved companies that help innovate with companies hundreds of millions of dollars in the work that I've done over the path of my career. If I, who was in an underserved area, didn't have access to that computer, not only would it have cost me and my career personally, it would have cost the organizations that I was a part of the bottom line benefit that they receive. So you can extrapolate and multiply that times every student around the world that doesn't have access to this type of to our overall digital transformation and have access to these technologies. So how could we do this? We need to close the gap for affordable internet, for digital literacy training, and for local infrastructure. The more we can invest in that, not just giving something away, but look at it as a huge investment in human capital, because they're going to produce so much person by person that have access to those things that's going to change their lives for their communities and also help the world as well. So digital transformation for us can be a bridge, not a barrier. If we don't take advantage of this, it will definitely keep that divide widening. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was concise, and that was a good example you talked right there. So even for me personally, as the founder of an education technology company, we've had to create alternatives and local area networks in certain underserved communities to ensure that students in these communities with limited internet connectivity can still access the same digital content that their counterparts in middle and high-end cities are accessing. So I think it's a collective effort, and we need to start rethinking this. Like you said, the digital gap is widening exponentially. So it's just a call for us to do more and also rethink our solutions. Thank you so much. For the last question for this session, would be going to guest, and it's around food security. So as an expert of permaculture and food security, how can science-driven solutions like regenerative agriculture, biotechnology, and permaculture contribute to sustainable food systems that don't exceed ecological limits? Thank you, guest.
Thank you again, Precious. Well, science-driven solutions such as permaculture, regenerative agriculture, and biotechnology actually offer pathways to create food systems that are productive and resilient. Now, permaculture provides a design philosophy that aligns human systems with natural ecosystems. By integrating food forests and water harvesting earthworks, permaculture reduces the reliance on chemical inputs and increases resilience to climate extremes. Science enhances permaculture by informing soil health and biodiversity management. A striking example is a permaculture training center in Chimanimani, Zimbabwe, that trains youths on setting up thriving systems of food forests and water harvesting structures. Now, this actually serves as a training hub for local farmers, demonstrating how permaculture can combine ecological restoration with food security. And then regenerative agriculture then rebuilds soil fertility and ecosystem function at larger scales. And then we've got practices such as cover cropping, composting, and even managed grazing that actually all increase soil organic matter and improve water retention. Scientific research confirms that these methods enhance soil organisms and support crop resilience, allowing farms to then produce food sustainably while mitigating climate change. And then biotechnology then complements all these approaches by increasing efficiency and resilience. Drought-tolerant and pest-resistant crops reduce the need for irrigation and pesticides. Soil health is actually further supported by biofertilizers and microbes in the soil. When biotechnology is applied responsibly, it enables food systems to meet demand without exceeding ecological limits. Now, what all then unites these approaches is a change of mindset. Instead of asking, how much can we extract? The question should be, how much can we give back while still meeting human needs? So, by combining scientific innovation with ecological wisdom, humanity can build sustainable food systems that meet today's needs without compromising the planet for future generations. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, guest. Thank you so much, our panelists. Thank you so much for this wonderful session. It's been a great and inspiring session. At the start of this session, we all watched an inspirational video from Chitra, and it showed us and explained to us that science actually holds the answers to many of our questions. Once again, my name is Precious Ishola, and as the founder of an education technology company that addresses quality education, SDG 4, I've had to integrate and leverage science-based evidences, research, and approaches to actually developing content for K-12 students across the world, helping them to understand reshaping the pedagogy, helping them with assessments, and helping them to ensure that they do not underperform. So again, science actually does hold the answers to a lot of our questions. It's been a really inspiring session. Thank you once again for your contributions, our panelists. Thank you, everyone, for joining in, audience and guests. Thank you so much. We are now going to be moving straight into the second panel. That's the second session. And then I'm going to be handing over to Lumbi Milambo, who is going to be moderating the next panel session. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Precious. Thank you, Precious. It's been wonderful. So at this time, seeing that time is moving so quickly, I'm going to ask the next speakers to get on and have their and be on standby, so we can begin immediately. Again, I'm Lumbi Malambo. Those who don't know me, I am also called the Water Lady. I'm the founder and CEO of JB Dondolo Water Company. All right, let's go straight to it. We're going to go to the cross-sector collaboration. And the first question is going to go to Hugo and Robert. So we'll start with you, Hugo. So how can we ensure that science advances or science advancements are not only innovative, but also inclusive, ethical, and sustainable? Take it away, Hugo. 3 minutes.
Hello, yes. Thank you for the invite to speak here. It's very nice to be in front of you. Well, the question should be simple to answer, but the answer or the what we should do is not as straightforward. So, the question is how we can ensure the scientific advancement, that inclusive and ethical. Of course, okay, we have to make it equality. We have to have ethics. We have to have moral, and we have to have responsibility. We have to engage diverse groups through the entire scientific process, for example, from the design to the implementation. This is like in a perfect world, how it should be. Unfortunately, it's not like this. It's advanced in scientific world or in anything else. It's not going to be as successful as we expect or as we wish if we carry on with the same tendency. The big guys regulate everything. The big guys receive all the money. The big guys take the decisions. So, the scientific advance, it can be perfect if we use in the right way, with the right people. So we can speak here about everything, how we can do this, what we can do that, but I'm really sorry to be this negative, but I think for all the improvement that we have here, or we are expecting to, or they should be, we should start with the root cause or the root problem. We should have the next generation better educated in environmental and policymakers, because the generation that we have today, unfortunately, is just aiming to make money. Doesn't matter what it is, how affect, who is included, who is not included. So, I agree with all of you. It's a really how it should be. But we need to change the decision makers. We need to change the people that will be the ethical thinkers, the equality thinkers. Then we will be able to use the advance in technology, in science, in everything. So if you ask me how can be inclusive, ethical, sustainable, we have to change the people that today, unfortunately, are taking the decisions. This is my view. We want to do this, but we are the little guys. We need to change, and we need to push the decision makers to take better decisions, being them inclusive with all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go to you, Robert. 3 minutes also answer the same question. Thank you.
All right. Hope you can all hear me.
Yes,
I'm
we
just gonna
can.
go. Oh, perfect. Okay, so sustainability and partnerships. I just want to piggyback off of what the gentleman in front of me said. And Hugo, we also worked on a project in the summertime, June 13th, the United Nations Ocean Conference. So I really want to give you a big shout out. And back to partnerships. It is key that we have partnerships, okay? That's really part of the magic. And being part of the United Nations, this United Nations, whether you agree with their politics or agree with their approaches, really has given us a platform that we can interact with each other globally, unlike any other platform I've ever encountered here in New York or across the United States. The UN really gives a great, let's say, dynamic cross-sector mechanism that allows us to actually interact and create strong partnerships. Now, I wanted to touch on just a couple of points to stay on topic here. He mentioned capitalism. Okay, it is very true that the governments across the world have an economic responsibility to the people that they serve. Okay, so we have to utilize the capitalism, the money, because we understand that that's what is happening in the world. It's always about revenue, it's about trade. Now let us continue. These are just some topics that I think are really key. Okay, measurability and impact. Besides respect to culture and traditions of our partners on the ground, at strong partnerships on the ground, with respect to people in Tanzania through Kijana Initiative, they're on the ground. We're working on a project. To respect to people in the UK and Europe, we're also working on projects with them there. But we trust our partners on the ground to do exactly what they say they want to do and have the ability to do. Okay, so now post-service, if we deliver a service, after the service is delivered, we have to make sure it's sustainable for the people on the ground. Now that's a cost. So we have to have a cost. Well, I'm from New York City, so we come from a very financial industry background. So it has to be economically feasible for the people on the ground, for the NGOs and partners that are providing it. And we have to go through three sectors: the government sector, the civil society sector, which is mostly us, and then the private sector. So these three sectors must work together in unison. And it's up to the NGO really to decide that. And so the cost effectiveness has to be there. Now, partners, again, that's SDG 17. That's really one of my favorites. That's I want to have a t-shirt about SDG 17 because strong partnerships is what makes it happen. So back to the UN. Let me share this with you. The United Nations provides this really great platform for us to all to interact. And I would like to be part of the next events that we could even have outside of, let's say, official United Nations events. So I encourage us all to work together and keep in touch with each other after we have completed this event here today. That's strong partnerships. So cost and peoples. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, let's move on to the next question. What models of collaboration between governments, private sector, academia, and communities have shown the greatest success in aligning science and with policy and social good? So this is going to go first to Yasser, and then to Rose, and then Gretchen, and then you, Robert. Let's start with you, Yasser.
Hi, good day. I want to begin by telling you about this small village in Pakistan where artistry of my beloved people no stand at crossroad. For generation, they have woven stitch and craft skills, carrying forward their tradition, older than memory itself. But world driven by fast fashion, their heritage and their livelihood were under threat of disappearance. Millions of rural women in Pakistan possess incredible skill in embroidery, weaving, and handicraft. Yet, lack of resources, culture barriers, and distance from the industry, their mass talent remain largely unused. This result in waste economic potential and families living in poverty, unable to support basic needs like education and healthcare. We know we could not simply preserve their craft as a relic of the past. We had to reimagine it for the future using science, not only protect their art, but also safeguard our planet. This is a story of HS Handicraft. Our collaboration with local artists and the fashion students and also the women, they have their multiple skills. It's a living in partnership of science and tradition. This is initiative of our because we are a sustainable fashion brand and we are consist on young fashion designers. We have taken a small initiative for the betterment of our planet. This model demonstrates that traditional wisdom and modern science not rival but allies. Together we can develop a good change uniting governments and academia, private industry, and communities shared vision for sustainability and social good. Cross-sector collaboration is not just important; it's necessary. It's a bridge between knowledge and action, also between innovation and humanity. Because all things are collaborative, and we can take a social good for the betterment of our planet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yasser. Let's go to Rose. You're going to answer the same question. Thank you very much. Rose?
Yeah. So thank you so much, Rumbi, for having this amazing conversation. Yeah, back to the question. Today, world, the biggest challenge we face, whether it's climate change, public health, we have been like we can't solve any issue with only one actor alone. So we need model collaboration, and they have full model, but because of the time and the previous speaker, we heard from Mr. Mohammed, also from Shay. They explaining very well about the issue of COVID-19. So when we go back to like 5 years ago, we have seen how changes it is, but through science, through scientific, there is health workers, this government, business, academic, they come together and they find the solution. So we learn it during the pandemic, how importance of people coming together. And that is the moment when the world understands the importance of belief in science. And the second one, I would say the vision for the NH. I can give you an example. I remember early this year, 2025, Honorable President Mama Samia Suluhu hosted, it was high-level event. It's called the Energy Mission 300. 300, yeah. So at that time, the goal was to ensure that until 2030, our country will, even in the world, in African countries, they can manage to accelerate the energy summit through bringing leaders together, business leaders. So the main aim is to ensure that we accelerate the issue of energy. And also, I can go back to the last example of the Paris Agreement. 2015, we see the world leaders, members from almost 200 countries, they came together in Paris. They discuss about issue which facing our today's world, including climate situation. But still, one thing which it's supposed to be very clear, that a developing country, I would say, they need a full participation, especially in support of funding, you know, because for me today, I have the privilege sit here and have this experience, but also African young people, they struggle to have the access of share voice, even to travel to New York. Yeah, so I think it is really matter. Even though we have this collaboration approach, we really need to improve support, including finance, including capacity building and access to technology. I am concluding by saying that science can drive policy and save people, but only when embedded in inclusive, accountable, and action-driving partnership, like mission for NA. So let's continue to building models that not only deliver innovation, but also justice, equity, and resilience. Thanks so much, Rumbi.
Thank you so much, Rose. Thank you for that insight. Can we go to Gretchen to answer the same question? Thank you so much, Gretchen.
Yes, thank you, Limbe. My name is Gretchen Viegas, and I work with entities across sectors to diversify revenue for social impact. And it's quite interesting to look at how science fits into that. So in my opinion, and from what I've seen, collaboration happens and there is real tangible change. So I think many of you have already spoken about the fact that governments have to set guardrails, right? And guidelines. Academia advances the science, business scales the innovation, and communities co-create, right? And so that's so that science can serve people, restore nature, and build resilience. So at Nexus Strategy and Growth Partners, we've been partnering with various companies in different parts of the world. And one such company is Bella Vista, a local coffee farmer from Guatemala. And I'd really like to share them with you briefly because they're a powerful example of how that type of collaboration with Bella Vista can actually make science work for the future. So each year, Guatemala's coffee industry produces over 500,000 tons of waste. Yes, 500,000. And traditionally, this waste was just discarded, thrown away. It released greenhouse gases, and it was a missed opportunity to create value, to create income. And so Bella Vista, this fourth generation coffee enterprise, partnered with a US-based private sector company to introduce an innovative system, a system that actually transforms that waste of coffee and banana byproducts into a nutrient-dense powder for food and nutrition. This is actually science applied with humility, in my opinion. It closes loops in the circular economy, it reduces emissions, it builds soil health, and it creates an income that is mainstreamed for both smallholder farmers and that coffee company. So what really matters? It's how it works, right? Government creates an enabling environment for the circular economy. Academia provides the research. How is soil biology? What are regenerative practices? And how do you work with it safely? The private sector, you need to have capital and you need to have global buyers. And so Starbucks and Gordon Food Service has stepped up in terms of this coffee waste product and the interest. And most importantly, local communities and farmers are partners because they're also increasing their livelihoods and they're bettering their soils at the same time. So way forward in terms of collaboration, we need to look at how to bring everybody to the table and invest in those companies that can actually mainstream the science to make the science work for everyone. Thank you, Lumbe.
Thank you so much, Gretchen. Shall we have Robert also answer the same question before we move on to the big picture? Robert.
All right. So I want to give Gretchen a big shout out because she has a great concept model that she brought to the table. And I just want to give a little insight about this. So in New York City, a nonprofit NGO, because we're talking about civil society, governments, and private stakeholders. Here's my approach to this. because as we all know, one technology here's an idea, the technology that we want to implement has to do with cryptocurrency, okay? But the ability to pay volunteers across the world globally, anywhere you are. Because I think what a lot of people are trying to do with the NGOs is to ensure that there's some kind of funding coming into the communities that need it worldwide. But the private sector is already kind of etched in stone as to what it wants to do. It's about revenue. Government is about power, control, regulations, and legislation, and peacekeeping. The civil society, and this is for everyone who wants to do good, here's my approach, is that the civil society should be invested in. Now, looked at and start to function as a private sector civil society entity or agency. So maintain the civil society, the nonprofit, the NGO, the charity status, but create, because here in New York, a nonprofit can sell clothes, we can own businesses, a charity can buy property, buy and sell, so it can invest. It has almost every single requirement to function as an entity, as a business, as the private sector does. However, because of the nature of the bylaws and charter of a nonprofit here at NGO, it has to make sure that the revenue and every money that comes in is for the good of the mission of the charity or the NGO, which at the end of the day is the people. So my request is to use technology by creating a system where anyone from anywhere across the world can get paid through our app, and we're working with some computer companies here now to make that happen, but to give access to everyone across the earth, because if you get cell phone or YouTube or Wi-Fi, you should be able to get paid anywhere you are. So technology harnessed to use as a mechanism for payment and financial sustainability anywhere in the world is part of the key. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Robert, for your insights. That's wonderful. Now we're going to go to the big picture. And this question for the big picture goes to Aisha and Yasser. So navigating the SDGs given the agency of the 2030 agenda, what role should science play in helping the world prioritize SDG goals within planetary boundaries? Aisha, start with you first.
All right. Hi everyone. I am Aisha. Thank you so much for such an important question. So it is very important that we know that science has a very key role to play with planetary boundaries, because the world currently now is involved in science. But when we look at numbers, the SDG goals, we just have 5 years away to meet the 2030 agenda, and we could see that we are so far behind. If you look at the statistic given by the United Nations, we still have 80% of these goals that are still off track worldwide, and 30% of these sustainability development goals are actually progressing backward. That simply means it's no longer business as usual. Time is no longer on our side, and we need to act fast. And this is where science comes in, because science is the compass that actually keep us in check and ensure we follow the right guideline. In my opinion, I think science needs to play three critical roles. I would say the first one should be setting limits. There should be a limit set with priorities. What I'm trying to say is we all know our planetary boundaries. Could it be high carbon in the air, little fresh water, high loss of biodiversity, and the likes of that? We all know these are some of our planetary boundaries. And the science, this is where science comes in, because science is a red line that then shows us that this is where the issue is. For instance, climate scientists have warned us that 1.5% degree of global warming could actually make life harder for humans, particularly in sub-Saharan African countries like Africans, where society like that are very, very vulnerable. So these people in this particular area are still far behind. So what this then does for us is it helps leaders, development partners, organizations to understand which of these particular SDG goals needs to be used in the aspect to ensure that global warming is cured, and how best can we keep it within planetary boundaries. The second one I would say is going to be finding local solutions. I know we all are talking about, we heard a lot of people talk about, speakers talk about reports, data. Yes, we know science is very alive in reports, but science is also alive in our communities because science is really embedded in human nature, in how we behave, in how we interact. Let me use Nigeria, my country, for instance. In Nigeria currently, we have about 1.3 million citizens that are living in multidimensional poverty. These people are still suffering in terms of education, health, energy, all at once. They are facing climate action. They are facing issues in this aspect. And this is where scientific approach is going to come in because we need to find solutions to ensure that these people are actually being given opportunity to live like other humans. And so we could take measures like, using climate smart farming to boost hidden without actually harming the soil. We could say we want to use renewable energy to power clinics and schools in this region, not only Nigeria. I'm talking about rural areas across the world that are facing these issues. So you could see that from these we get to know which of the SDGs and how best can we help us to solve the planetary boundaries issue. The third one, which is a very important one for me, is building resilience and trust because the key importance of science is science makes sure that people see progress, people see the future even before the future. So it is very important that everybody is carried along because in this aspect, everybody needs to understand that, okay, yes, this is science, but how can we ensure everybody is getting access to science? So in this case, government, international organizations need to make reports very open so that reports like, let's say, maybe rainfall habits, poverty maps, health statistics and the likes of that, they all need to be open so that people get to understand this is where the issue is. This is where we are lacking. Who can we hold accountable? And most importantly, everybody is going to take actions because without actions, there's no solution. We can all come here and speak for the whole day, trying to look at science. But the truth is, if we're not willing to take action, if we are not willing to take action beyond just slides, beyond just speaking in conference, sections and seminars, it's going to continue that way. And it's going to ensure that access is not going round across everybody. So it's very, very important that everybody is carried along. And science is what plays the balance between humans and planetary health. So
thank you so much, Aisha. Thank you so much. I'm sorry to cut you short because I have to stick within the time limit. There are 3 minutes left, so I need to go to Yase to answer the same question. Sorry about that. Yase?
Your question is very great. I would explain further question that science is playing a very important role for the betterment of our planet in 2030. But we have to take a small action right now for the betterment of our protecting our planet. Because we work on recycling, upcycling, and reducing by waste by promoting circular design. It's a era of AI technology by using Cloud 3D and vStitcher. If we use properly these technologies for betterment of our planet, it will help us to economic growth, SDG 8, and responsible consumption and the production, not a contradiction but complementary goal. By innovating with waste, environmental harm, health creating livelihoods, particularly for women and artisans, who stand for the heart of social development and sustainable development. By innovating with this, we found in the synergy between laboratories and looms, between boardrooms and villages, between innovation and humanity. The future of something we wait for, it is something we design, and if we design with science, with sustainability, and with humanity, it's hard. Then together we will weave a world that will be safe, clean, and healthier in 2030. We have no take initiative with the collective effort with different NGOs, academics, and governments to move forward and do something better and do more and more small action and check the performance again. So what we have achieved and what we have done and what next we have to do. These are the different reasons, and we will move to together next step. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yase. Thank you for that answer. Let's move on to the next question for Hugo. How do we balance the rapid pace of innovation with the need for ethical safeguards and long-term sustainability? Hugo.
Actually, sustainability in the future will be focused on the different creative ideas by providing training and development, seminars, and also we have discussion about the advanced fashion technologies and different science made hope we can save our planet regarding, because I want to talk with the about fashion point of view. If we
Yes.
can take.
Sorry to interrupt. That question was to Hugo, actually. So for the sake of staying within time, this question is for Hugo that I just asked. So Hugo.
Yep.
That's the name.
Okay.
Oh, I will take the questions with my answer through the big question that you have in this panel, if the science can save us. Because my answer will be in the middle of, you know, the bigger question. So science, the same as innovation, technology, everything, offers tools and technologies can help, but no single-handed save the planet. Solution like direct carbon capture, biodegradable plastics show promises. The problem that we have with the innovation, science, technology, everything else that you are asking, you know, how can make it sustainable at the speed and be fair for everybody. All the things that we need to make a better planet, to make a cleaner, a better environment for everyone, we can create anything. Everything will help a bit more how bad we are today. This is not the problem, what we creating or what the development or anything like that. The problem is that has to be in the right hands. In order to be beneficial for our planet and for ourselves, had to be in the right hands. Science offers solutions and can help save the planet, but require more than just scientific innovation. It necessitates a global transformation toward an equitable economy system and responsible sharing of sources and knowledge. So we have to share everything we do with everyone to be sustainable and fair. The reality is different. In our current political environment, the penalty for environmental leadership can be devastating. We are all seeing the headline of company after company rolling back in action after a specific or perceived threat for multiple directions. Now, as an environmental organization, we have something that many cannot afford: the freedom of speech to speak the truth about what actually is happening. So what I said before, what I read, was prepared by our PR company. What, as an environmentalist, I would like to say that everything that we are speaking here is not going to have any effect or will be a minimal benefit for us if it's not in the right hands. If we have our leaders take the reins of what we're doing, how we share it, who it benefit, who is having it, who is getting the money. If we have people like Donald Trump, for example, we're not going to go anywhere. You know, everything is going worse and worse, and we are environmentalists fighting for a better future, but we are not fighting for the science to be developed. We are fighting for the people. They don't want to share this. You know, they won't benefit themselves. So back to your question, how we go and make it fair and share for everyone is having the right people taking the right decisions.
Thank you so much for that answer. Let's move on to Gretchen. Gretchen, yours is food security. How can science-driven solutions like generative agriculture, biotechnology, permaculture contribute to the sustainable food system that don't exceed ecological limits? Gretchen.
Right, that's a great question, Lumbe. And I think what we need to start out with is just by looking at the simple fact that by 2050, our planet will need to feed nearly 10 billion people. I mean, do we all realize that that's almost 3 billion more than we had in 2010? And it's about 60% more in yields than we had in 2010. I mean, think about that. If that growth is forcing us to confront this hard question of how do we nourish everyone without pushing past Earth's limits, I mean, that's a huge question to tackle. And it's not something we can shy away from. And right now, our systems aren't ready. Our food production, our supply chains, our distribution, they're not aligned to meet future demand that we're going to need that will actually safeguard, our biodiversity, our soil, and our water resources. So even though we have millions of people going hungry every day, and we know that's true, we throw away or lose about 1/3 of all food produced globally every year. And that's roughly 1.3 billion tons. Now, what if we could just recover all of that? What if we could recover it and use it? So let's go back to the Bella Vista example I was talking about. They are actually transitioning farmland in Guatemala with regenerative agriculture, because by restoring the soil, they increase biodiversity, they manage water better, and they're actually becoming resilient to droughts and pests. And because they're using regenerative agriculture, they can use the waste to upcycle it into additional food products, right? And that's what's very important here. Bella Vista also brings biotechnology into the picture by partnering with US innovators who can transform that waste of coffee and banana peels into nutrient-rich powders that can be used to close some of that gap of the 10 billion people who we're going to need to feed. So think big. If we scaled this up and we did upcycling across the 1.3 billion tons of food wasted worldwide, we could actually feed millions, stabilize farmer incomes, and prevent unnecessary land expansion. And by doing this, we automatically incorporate permaculture design because it's also part of what is actually needed, driven by the science, so that we have nutrient-rich powder from this waste that humans can actually consume. And that's really important here. So what do we learn? We learn that regenerative agriculture can really be an incentive to companies and farmers that if they utilize waste, they can produce more food, close the gap in food security that we have globally, make money at the same time, but ensure that our planet and our soil is healthy as well. And
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's amazing what that can
Thank
do.
you so much, Gretchen. Thank you so much. I know we have run out of our time, but in case we get kicked out of this session by the Science Summit, I just want to let you know that that may happen. So let me go to the next question. We just keep going anyway. Let's go to the next question, which is for Rose. Yours, Rose, is science and climate resilience. How can science accelerate climate resilience in vulnerable communities, particularly those affected by extreme weather and resource scarcity?
Yes.
Rose.
So thank you so much, Rumbi. So science can accelerate climate resilience in 3 important ways. Number 1, we come up with evidence-based solution. So we use the scientific research to promote climate smart agriculture. and WASH, which means water, sanitation, and hygiene practice. So here at Kijana Initiative Organization, in support from Apex Development, we have even applied to Harvard to support a health climate project. Finger crosses. So here we are working with the schools, university, and Morogoro community to expand this program. As the previous speaker, Gretch, I don't know if I pronounce well your name, you speak about academia. That is so true. So it's about collaborate with people like academia or university. And the second, training and community action. So science supports training and awareness, especially for youth reading groups. Many young organizations like Yana Initiative Organization have great energy but need capacity building to deliver really impact. So the third one, inclusive local solution. So we involve youth and women directly in planning and decision making. So in my own community, I would give you an example. Over 60% of women are affected by climate issue like cropping failure and water shortage. Rumbi, you have been a very good champion on water, and I have seen your hustle. You are a champion. It's really amazing. You really inspire me. And I'm hoping in the future we are going to work together to ensure that we collaborate, and we are here for all about it. So yeah, so they must be
Absolutely.
part of solution. Yeah, women, they need to be part of the solution because as the one who are being very affected, and we don't want to left them behind. So I can finish by give you this example. Also, it's very important for police engagement. I remember in 2018, I joined the Youth in Landscape Initiative at Global Landscape Forum with UNEP in Nairobi. When I returned back home, I booked an appointment with the Minister of Environment in Tanzania and sharing our finding. Back in the day, I didn't know that it's part of the of the science to share the report and the findings. So from the high level report based on landscape and restoration. So that moment showed me that youth, science, and leadership, once they come together, they can shape really policy. So yeah, here is my call for action. Yeah, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Really great insights. Let's go to the last question for Aisha. Digital transformation and equity. Can digital transformation close equity gaps, or are we at risk of widening the digital divide if access remains unequal? Aisha?
All right, Lambi, thank you. So I would say that question is depending on us. It can close the gap and it can also widen the gap, because if you look at it currently, according to the UN, we have 2.6 billion population in the world, of which 1/3 of that population is still offline. In Africa, we still have about 40% of our populations that lack access to internet. In a country like my country, Nigeria, for instance, we still have about a situation whereby the rural areas are still far behind. They lack access to smartphones and digital tools. So what that basically simply means is, for us to answer that question, it depends on who has the access. If access is very equitable to everybody, we can be able to close that gap. If that access is wide, then I'm trying to say we are still far behind. So what that simply means is access has to be universal and affordable to everybody. And how can we do that? We all need to come together, particularly governments, international organizations, policymakers, to ensure that we are paying attention to rural, particularly rural areas across the world. That is where the issue is. If a young girl with rural area lack access to education, lack access to services for how to promote her education, yet a young boy in the urban area have access to education, smartphones, and the likes of that, the opportunity becomes wider. The gap becomes wider. If the rural areas are given access to smartphones and internet, they get ahead faster. What that simply means is it can be a wall or it can be a ladder, like I said earlier. It has to depend on who has access. So we need to develop stable electricity with broadband and even local service devices in rural area to ensure that digital literacy is very, very affordable and very open to everybody, particularly women, youth, and marginalized groups, so they can be able to use internet confidently. So I'll not take much of your time. I'll just say to summarize my work. It is something that can be done if anybody is willing to grant access, if we can make access very equitable. Like what I think currently, I don't know if I pronounced her name said, she said science knows borders. And so access knows no borders. So we have to ensure that access knows no borders, irrespective of the region, the continent, wherever you are in the world, we all deserve access to digital transformation because that is where the world is heading and no one should be left behind. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I want to thank you all for joining the Science Summit today. It's been a pleasure. I know we're going to get kicked out anytime now, but I just wanted to say thank you all so much. Please join again next year. We look forward to working with you and hearing more insights from you. So I'm going to close up with this great student video from Sai Shetty, just to hear his insights. Here it is. Enjoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Simon Shetty. Can science save us? That's the question of our time. We live on a planet with rising temperatures, shrinking biodiversity, and widening inequality. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, give us a roadmap, but the roadmap only works if we stay within our planetary boundaries. The safe limits that keep the Earth stable, livable, and resilient. Science is not just the data labs or satellites, right? Science is a collective power to understand the problems and to create solutions. It's the reason we know that burning fossil fuels warm our atmosphere. It's how we discover the renewable energy that powers our future. It is what helps the farmers grow our foods and crops with less water, and it also helps our first responders, which is our doctors, work on fighting pandemics such as the COVID-19. This also helps with environmental benefits such as the renewable waste and recycle energy. By that I mean how we recycle bottles and recycle electric energies. Yet, science alone is not enough because knowledge without action is just information. To truly save us, science must connect with policies, businesses, and community actions. It must inspire trust and build cultures and guide us to such a direction so that growth never exceeds from Earth's ecological limits. So let me give you an example. Take climate action. SDG 13, science warns us that crossing 1.5 Celsius of warning risks irreversible damages, but it also gives us solutions such as clean energy, green buildings, and circular economies. SDG 6, which is clean water, in which science tells us that aquifers are running dry, but it also develops affordable destinations or smart irrigations. SDG 3, which is for good health, in which science provides us with vaccines such as the COVID-19 vaccine, showing us that in medical emergencies, science is there to collaborate to the success of humanity. So, here's my question to y'all. How can science save us? The truth is, science gives us the tools, but only humanity, our choices, our courage, and our unity, we can use those tools wisely. If we listen to the evidence, respect planetary boundaries, and act together as a community, science can be the compass that steers us away from crisis towards a thriving and sustainable future. The challenge is real, but the window is short. The opportunity is historic. Let's not just ask science to save us. Let us be the change. Let's make sure it does it. Let us not be greedy, and let us work together as a community. My name is Sar Mancheri, and I thank y'all so much for listening to me. Stay blessed, and God bless y'all.
With that being said, thank you, Sai. Thank you all, and have a wonderful, wonderful day, and see you all next year. Thank you, and stay blessed. That's the end of our session.